I called my parents 16 times that night. 16. Each call went straight to voicemail. While they were just 30 minutes away, laughing at a dinner party, celebrating my cousin like I didn't exist. By the time they finally called me back, I was already in the hospital. And in that moment, lying there alone, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. Stick with me. My name is Alara Whitcomb, and I was 17 that night. At first, the pain in my stomach felt small, like something I could ignore. I thought maybe it was just something I ate. But within minutes, it got worse. Sharp. Twisting. It felt like something inside me was tearing. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. No answer. I called my dad. Nothing. I called again. And again. And again. 16 times. My hands were shaking as I sent text after text. Please answer. I don't feel okay. I need help. No reply. But I knew exactly where they were. They had been talking about that dinner all week. My cousin Brielle's celebration. Brielle, the perfect one. The one they never missed anything for. I curled up on the floor, trying to breathe through the pain. It kept getting worse, spreading through my body, making it hard to even think. I felt scared in a way I had never felt before. I tried calling one more time. Straight to voicemail. That's when it hit me. They were choosing not to answer. Tears filled my eyes, but I forced myself to move. I couldn't just sit there. I scrolled through my contacts with blurry vision until I found one name. Mr. Halvorson, my neighbor. My fingers barely worked as I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Alara, he said, his voice already worried. I need help, I whispered, my voice breaking. I'm coming right now. Those words felt like the only thing holding me together. Within minutes, he was at my door. He didn't ask questions when he saw me. He just helped me to his car and drove straight to the hospital. As we pulled into the emergency entrance, I held my phone tightly in my hand, staring at the screen. 16 missed calls. And still nothing from them. The hospital lights felt too bright, and everything around me moved too fast. Nurses rushed me through the doors while doctors asked questions I could barely answer. The pain in my stomach was unbearable now, sharp and constant, making it hard to even breathe. Mr. Halvorson stayed by my side until they took me into a room. I remember gripping his hand for a moment, afraid to be alone. He gave me a small, calm nod, like he wanted me to know I was safe now. The doctors ran tests quickly. Blood work, scans, everything. Time felt strange, like it was both rushing and dragging at the same time. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying not to cry, trying not to think about how I ended up there alone. After what felt like forever, a doctor finally came in. His face was serious, but not panicked. You came in just in time, he said gently. You have a severe infection. If you had waited longer, it could have become life-threatening. His words sank in slowly. Just in time. I nodded, but inside something twisted. If I had waited longer, if I hadn't called for help, what would have happened? My hand slowly reached for my phone beside me. For a second, I hesitated. Then I turned the screen on. There it was. A message. From my mom. My heart jumped for a moment, thinking maybe they were worried. Maybe they were on their way. Maybe they finally cared. I opened it. Busy right now. Can it wait? I stared at the words, reading them again and again, hoping they would change. They didn't. My chest felt tight, but not because of the infection. Something else hurt more. Something deeper. Busy. Can it wait? I was in a hospital bed. The doctor had just told me I could have been in serious danger. And that was their response. In that moment, something inside me became very clear. This wasn't new. It wasn't just about tonight. All the times they missed my school events. All the times they canceled plans with me. All the times they compared me to Brielle, like I was never enough. It all came rushing back at once. I wasn't the priority. I never had been. Brielle was the one they showed up for. Brielle was the one they were proud of. Brielle was the one who mattered. And me? I was the one who could wait. A tear slipped down the side of my face as I slowly locked my phone. The pain in my body was real. But the pain in my heart finally made sense. Lying in the hospital bed, I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened before that night. It was like a door had opened in my mind, and all the memories I tried to ignore came rushing in. I remembered my school events. The times I stood on stage, looking out into the crowd, hoping to see my parents. Other kids had their families cheering, waving, smiling. I would scan every face again and again, but they were never there. Later, they would say, something came up, or will come next time. But next time never came. Then there were my birthdays. One year, I had planned something small. Just dinner and a cake. I was actually excited because my parents promised they would be there. But that same day, Brielle had something important. Some family gathering, something about her that suddenly mattered more. We'll celebrate later, my mom said. But we didn't. Another year passed like it didn't matter at all. And then there were the comparisons. Why can't you be more like Brielle? Look at how focused she is. She's always so graceful. They said these things like they were normal. Like it wouldn't hurt. Like I was just supposed to accept that I would always come second. But the memory that hurt the most came back clearly. The day I got accepted into a competitive academic program. I worked so hard for that. Nights of studying, stress, pressure. I did it all on my own. When I got the acceptance letter, I was so happy. For once, I thought maybe they would be proud of me. There was even a small ceremony for the students who got in. I told my parents weeks before. They said they would come. That day, I stood there in a neat outfit, holding my paper, looking around the room. Other students had their families beside them, taking pictures, smiling proudly. I kept checking the door. They never walked in. Later, I found out why. They went to Brielle's dance recital instead. She needed us, my dad said, like it explained everything. I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of them. I just said, it's okay. But it wasn't okay. It was never okay. All those moments stayed inside me, building quietly year after year. I kept telling myself it didn't matter, that I was strong, that I didn't need them as much. But that night in the hospital changed everything. 16 calls. No answer. For the first time, I stopped making excuses for them. And something inside me finally broke. The next morning, I woke up slowly, the hospital room quiet around me. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the pain in my body reminded me. The 4 in my arm. The machines beside me. The silence. I turned my head toward the door, and that's when I saw them. My parents. They were standing there, but something felt off. They didn't look worried. They didn't rush to me. They didn't even look relieved. They looked annoyed. My mom crossed her arms as she walked closer. You scared us for nothing, she said, her voice sharp, not soft. I blinked, confused. Nothing, I repeated quietly. My dad sighed like he was tired. Why didn't you just wait? He asked. We were busy. You didn't have to overreact like this. Overreact. The word echoed in my head. I stared at them, trying to understand what I was hearing. I was in a hospital bed. A doctor had told me I came in just in time. And this was their reaction? I called you, I said softly. 16 times. My mom waved her hand like it didn't matter. We were at an important dinner, Alara. You knew that. Important. More important than me. My chest felt tight again, but this time it wasn't fear. It wasn't pain from the infection. It was something else. I looked at their faces, really looked this time. There was no guilt. No regret. No sign that they felt bad for what happened. Not even a little. They didn't say sorry. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't hold my hand or sit beside me like parents should. It was like I had interrupted their night instead of almost losing mine. Something inside me went very still. For years, I had told myself they cared in their own way. That maybe they were just busy. That maybe I expected too much. But standing there, listening to them blame me for being in pain, I finally saw the truth clearly. They didn't feel guilty because, to them, they hadn't done anything wrong. That realization was cold. It settled deep inside me, replacing the hurt I had carried for so long. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just looked away from them and stared at the wall. Because in that moment, something changed. The sadness I always felt started turning into something else. Something quieter. Something stronger. For the first time, I stopped hoping they would understand. And I started seeing them exactly as they were. When I got back home, everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The walls, the furniture, even the quiet in the house. It all felt different, like I was seeing it clearly for the first time. I walked into my room and sat on my bed, holding my phone. For a long moment, I just stared at it. Then slowly, I opened my messages. I started scrolling. Old texts I had sent. Can you come to my event? Are we still going out today? Please don't forget. Most of them had no reply. Some had short answers hours later. Busy. Maybe next time. We'll see. I kept scrolling, my chest feeling heavier with every message. It wasn't just a few times. It was constant. A pattern I had ignored for years. Then I checked my call history. Missed calls. Unanswered calls. Times I had reached out and got nothing back. I swallowed hard and locked my phone, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. Later that evening, I walked past the living room and heard my parents talking. I wasn't trying to listen, but then I heard a name. Brielle. I stopped. She's really going places, my mom said proudly. She's the one who really matters in this family. I froze. My dad agreed. She always has been. The words hit me harder than anything before. The one who really matters. I stood there quietly, my heart beating fast, but I didn't walk in. I didn't say anything. I just listened for a few more seconds before walking away slowly. For the first time, I didn't feel confused. I didn't try to explain it or defend them in my mind. It was clear. That night, I sat at my desk and opened a notes app on my phone. At first, I didn't know what to write. My hands felt strange, like this was something serious, something final. Then I started typing. Dates. Messages. Things they said. Times they didn't show up. I even wrote down what I heard that evening. Not for drama. Not to hurt them. But because I needed to see it. I needed proof. Not for anyone else, but for myself. Every word I typed made the truth stronger. This wasn't one bad night. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was years of being pushed aside, ignored, and treated like I didn't matter. They didn't just fail me once. They had been choosing someone else over me my entire life. And now, I finally stopped pretending otherwise. A few days later, the house became busy again. My mom was on the phone all the time, planning something big. Decorations were being ordered, food lists were written, and everything had to be perfect. I didn't have to ask what it was for. Brielle. She had been accepted into a top college, and now the whole family was going to celebrate her. A big gathering. Relatives, friends, everyone. I watched it all quietly. No one asked how I was feeling after the hospital. No one checked if I was okay. It was like that night had already been forgotten. But this party? It mattered. Of course it did. The day before the event, my mom finally spoke to me about it. She stood in my doorway, looking at me like she was giving instructions, not talking to her daughter. Make sure you're ready tomorrow, she said. And wear something nice. I nodded slowly. Okay. She paused, then added. And please be supportive. This is important for Brielle. Supportive. I felt something tighten inside me, but I stayed quiet. Then she said the words that changed everything. Don't make this about you for once. For once. I looked at her, really looked at her, waiting for something, anything, that showed she didn't mean it like that. But her face was calm. Serious. Like what she said was completely normal. For once. The words echoed in my head long after she walked away. For once, don't make it about you. I sat there in silence, staring at the wall. For years, I had stayed quiet. I had stepped back. I had told myself to be patient, to be understanding, to not cause problems. I had watched them choose Brielle again and again. And I said nothing. So what did she mean for once? That was when it hit me. It was never about me. Not once. Not ever. A strange calm settled over me. The kind of calm that comes when something finally makes sense. All the hurt, all the confusion, it started to clear. I wasn't invisible by accident. I was invisible because they chose not to see me. I stood up slowly and walked to the mirror. I looked at myself for a long moment. I didn't look weak. I didn't look small. I just looked done. Done waiting. Done hoping. Done staying quiet. That night, I made a decision. I would go to that party. I would smile. I would stand there just like they expected. But I wouldn't stay invisible anymore. Not this time. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even think about confronting them the way I used to imagine. No more quiet talks that changed nothing. No more hoping they would suddenly understand. This time, I wanted something different. I wanted the truth to be seen. Not just by them, but by everyone. I sat at my desk and picked up my phone. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. My reflection looked back at me, calm, but serious. Then I started. First, I opened my call history. I scrolled to that night. 16 missed calls. All to my parents. I took screenshots, making sure the times were clear. One after another. Proof that I didn't just call once or twice. Proof that I kept trying. Next, I opened my messages. Please answer. I don't feel okay. I need help. I read them again, feeling a quiet weight in my chest. Then I saved those too. Every message. Every ignored moment. After that, I reached into my bag and pulled out the hospital papers. The doctor had explained everything before I left. The infection. How serious it was. How dangerous it could have been if I came in later. I read the words carefully. Severe. Urgent. Immediate treatment required. I took pictures of those papers as well. When I was done, I looked at everything together. The calls. The messages. The records. It told a clear story. A story I had lived, but now it was something I could show. I wasn't doing this because I was angry. I wasn't doing this to embarrass them. At least, not just for that. I was doing this because I was done being ignored. Done being the quiet one who kept everything inside while everyone else believed a perfect version of our family. They thought everything was fine. They thought my parents were always there. They didn't know the truth. But they were about to. I opened my notes and started writing. Not long sentences. Not dramatic words. Just simple facts. Clear. Honest. Real. What happened that night. What the doctor said. What my parents said. When I finished, I read it once more. No anger. No shouting. Just truth. I locked my phone and placed it beside me. The party was tomorrow. A house full of people. Smiles. Laughter. Celebration. And in the middle of it all, I would finally speak. Not as the quiet girl in the corner, but as someone who was ready to be heard. The house was full of noise when I arrived. Laughter came from every corner. Music played softly in the background. People were talking, eating, celebrating Brielle like she had already changed the world. I stood near the side of the room, holding my phone tightly in my hand. No one really noticed me at first. I was just another face in the crowd, just like always. Then someone tapped a glass. "Let's hear from Alara," a relative said with a smile. "Say a few words about Brielle." All eyes slowly turned to me. My heart beat faster, but not from fear. From something else. Something steady. Something clear. I walked forward. Each step felt calm. Controlled. Like I had been waiting for this moment longer than anyone knew. I stopped at the front of the room. Brielle was sitting not far away, smiling softly, expecting something nice. My parents stood nearby, proud and relaxed, like this was just another happy family moment. I looked at all of them. For a second, the room felt normal. Warm. Perfect. Then I spoke. 16 calls. Silence started to fall even before I finished the sentence. That's how many times I tried to reach my parents the night I needed them. The room went completely quiet. No music. No laughter. No small talk. Just silence. I didn't look away. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just kept speaking. I was home alone. I was in pain. I thought something was seriously wrong. I called them over and over, but they didn't answer. I paused for a moment. While they were here, I continued softly, celebrating. I saw people start to shift uncomfortably. Some looked at my parents. Some looked at me. No one spoke. I pulled out my phone and showed it calmly. The call log. The missed calls. The times. The proof. I didn't get a response until I was already in the hospital, I said. A doctor told me I came just in time. My voice stayed steady. Not loud. Not angry. Just real. I sent messages asking for help, I added. They didn't read them until hours later. I looked at my parents now. I'm not saying this to create drama, I said. I'm saying it because this is what actually happened. The room stayed frozen. No one interrupted me. No one laughed anymore. Just truth sitting in the middle of a celebration that suddenly didn't feel like one. For a few seconds after I finished speaking, no one moved. It was like the whole room forgot how to breathe. Then the whispers started. Soft at first. Confused voices. People looking at each other, trying to understand what they had just heard. She called 16 times? Hospital. Why didn't they answer her? I stood still at the front, my phone still in my hand, calm on the outside even though my heart was beating hard. I saw my parents move quickly. My father stepped forward first, his face tight. "Alara, that's enough," he said sharply. "This is not the place." But someone in the crowd interrupted him. "Is it true?" a relative asked. "Did she really go to the hospital alone?" My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Brielle was sitting nearby. I turned my eyes toward her. She looked completely shocked. Her smile was gone. Her face was pale, like she had just realized she was part of something she didn't understand. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know." No one answered her. The room felt different now. The celebration was gone, replaced by tension so thick it was hard to ignore. My father tried again. "We were busy that night. We didn't realize it was serious." His voice didn't sound strong anymore. It sounded tired, uncertain. A few people frowned at him. "You didn't see 16 calls?" someone asked quietly. My mother stepped forward. "She tends to overreact," she said quickly. We thought she could wait. But even as she spoke, her words didn't land the way she expected. They sounded smaller now, less certain, like they were losing power with every sentence. Murmurs spread through the room again. She was in the hospital. And they ignored her? That's not okay. I watched it all quietly. I didn't interrupt. I didn't add anything more. I didn't need to. Because now they could see it. Not just my words. Not just my phone. But the truth behind it. For the first time, I saw my parents differently too. Not as strong. Not as perfect. Just human. Flawed. Exposed. Their usual confidence was gone. My father looked around the room, trying to regain control, but no one was fully listening anymore. My mother's voice softened. "We didn't mean." But she stopped halfway, because even she knew it didn't sound right anymore. The image they had built for years, the perfect family, the perfect daughter, the perfect life, it was breaking in front of everyone. And there was nothing they could say to fix it quickly. The truth had already taken its place. After I finished speaking, I didn't stay to watch everything fall apart. I didn't wait for my parents to explain themselves. I didn't wait for Brielle to cry or for relatives to argue. I just turned around and walked away. No one stopped me. The sound of the party faded behind me as I stepped outside. The air felt different, colder, but also lighter. Like I could finally breathe without holding something heavy inside my chest. For a moment, I just stood there in silence. My hands were still shaking a little, but not from fear. From release. Then I kept walking. That night, I went home alone. No messages. No calls. Just quiet. But the quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt peaceful. The next morning, my phone started lighting up. Messages from relatives. "Are you okay? We had no idea. You were right to speak up." Some were short. Some were long. Some sounded shocked. Others sounded sorry. I read them all, but I didn't reply right away. Then more messages came. People asking questions. People saying they now understood. People saying they saw a different side of my parents. The story had spread. And for the first time, I wasn't the only one carrying it. A few days later, my parents tried to call me. I didn't pick up. They sent texts too. "Elara, please talk to us. We can explain. You made it worse than it was." But it wasn't my job anymore to make them understand. Not after everything. Not after 16 calls. Not after the hospital. Not after everything I had already said in front of everyone. I didn't reply. Instead, I started focusing on small things. I went back to school. I started studying again. I spent more time outside. I talked to people who actually listened without making me feel small. It felt strange at first, like learning a new way to live. But slowly it became easier. Quieter. Better. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. I stopped waiting for messages that never came. I stopped expecting people to suddenly become different. Because the truth was simple now. They had already shown me who I was to them. And I finally believed it. For the first time in my life, I didn't wait for apologies that might never come. I didn't wait for love that always felt conditional. I didn't wait to be chosen. I chose myself instead. And that was the first time I felt truly free. If this story made you feel something, remember this: neglect and emotional dismissal can deeply affect mental and physical health, especially in teens. Always speak up when you feel unheard and seek support from trusted people. Share this story to raise awareness about emotional neglect and the importance of being valued.